Hi, welcome to another edition of the Alan Rosenberg Show. Worked all day, got home, changed, had dinner. It's about 8:40 p.m. and I go on the computer, and what do I see? They have announced the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame 2025 inductees. Now, this has been fun sport for the last 5 years of my channel. Every year I talk about the nominees and then the ones who get inducted, and I usually do a pretty big rant. I did a video 2 months ago. If you go to my videos, RANT 2025 Rock Hall of Fame nominations, that's when I went through each nominee. Not so much a rant anymore. I've grown to accept that the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame is not what I would have hoped it could have been, and I think they should change the name now just to the Popular Music Hall of Fame. Would make a lot more sense, because that's really what it is. But let's get into who they're inducting. And I have not analyzed it. I see it because I typed up a list, but I haven't really given it much thought because I want it to be live. So let's start with who are the nominees. And this is straight from my video, my sheet from from 2 months ago. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, 14 performers were nominees for the 2025 induction. Bad Company was the first nomination. The Black Crowes, first nomination. Mariah Carey, Chubby Checker, first nomination. Guy who came from like 1960, no less. Joe Cocker, first nomination. Billy Idol, first nomination. Joy Division and New Order. Cyndi Lauper, Mana, who I never heard of, first nomination. Oasis. Outkast, first nomination. Fish, first nomination. Soundgarden, and the White Stripes. Those were the nominees. I went through them 2 months ago. Feel free to watch that video where I talk about each one of those. Now, at the end of that video, they induct 7. And, right, 7 they induct. I made my prediction at the very end who I thought they would put in. Not who I thought deserved it necessarily, but who I thought they would pick. And that was, my prediction to get inducted was Mariah Carey. Now, I can't stand Mariah Carey, but the fact that they've put in Whitney Houston and these really huge artists of that pop vein, Mariah Carey is so successful. I was sure she was a shoo-in. I mean, God, she's been around a long time and a lot of success. Cyndi Lauper, I thought they would induct. Oasis, perfect timing, reform for the tour. I thought they would definitely get in. Outkast, just because of popular music and rap, and they had some success for a couple of years. I know my kids listen to that album all the time back in the day. Fish, Soundgarden, and the White Stripes. Those were the 7 that I predicted that would get inducted. Now they've announced who the 7 are, and in fact I didn't do that good. It was pretty much way off base to a large extent. So let's do it this way, like my folded papers. Prediction to get inducted. Who got in? The official inductees for the 2025 Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Bad Company, Chubby Checker, Joe Cocker, didn't predict any of them. Cyndi Lauper, predicted her. Outkast, predicted. Soundgarden, predicted. And the White Stripes. All right, I got 4 out of 7. So what's my thinking? Listen, and I said it in that original video, I am a fan of Bad Company. I remember when they first came out. I have all the albums by the legendary band. The Bad Company album, Straight Shooter, 2 amazing albums. Bad Company is a great debut, one of the best. Running with the Pack, Burning Sky, Desolation Angels, bit of a comeback, and then Rough Diamonds, which is typically considered their worst album. A couple of cool live records. This is a great, cool one. And then this is a really good one here called The Original Anthology. And this is a good overview. This is who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame now. And what do I think? I think they're really good. Great band. I think Paul Rodgers is one of the greatest vocalists of all time. And like I said, their first 2 albums are amazing. After that, a little bit spotty. Some great songs, some not such great songs. They're a fine, fine band. They made it in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Now, an interesting thing is they're putting Bad Company in, but no mention of Free. Now, to a lot of people, Free is a far superior band, and I have every Free album, and I think Free is phenomenal. In fact, I probably listen to Free more than I listen to Bad Company. But here in the United States, Free is pretty much just known for All Right Now, and worldwide, Free has a much bigger, reputation. It's a cool set, by the way. These are all digitally remastered. You ever see this? You put them together like that, and you get a face. Pretty cool. But no mention whatsoever of Free. Now, I get it because, they did Joy Division, and they did nominated Joy Division and New Order as one. They maybe could have done that with Free and Bad Company, although they really are very different bands. But, Bad Company got in. I did not predict that. I like Bad Company. We'll talk more about it at the end. Then they put in Chubby Checker. Chubby Checker, I think, is a joke to be in. I got a big problem with that. He's from like 1960, 1961. Listen, at the end of the day, the guy's famous for 2 or 3 songs. The Twist, Let's Twist Again, maybe one other one. He didn't write any of those. They were cover songs. The Twist is a cover song. And, it was a dance craze. And I guess he made a career out of it, at least for some period of time, from that. Now you're going to put him in 2025 when the Twist is like from 1960 for the Twist. My thing is the Twist could be in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and therefore Chubby Checker, but put him in for that song. Not an artist. It gets ridiculous. You put a guy in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for 2 or 3 classic songs that he didn't even write. You put him in for the song, not as an artist. Chubby Checker, I don't get it. All right, they put in Joe Cocker. I like Joe Cocker. I talked about this, Mad Dogs and Englishmen. I got 2 versions of it. This is phenomenal, classic, legendary live album, right? But the reality about Joe Cocker is, he's such a unique vocalist, a great performer, really cool voice. But at the end of the day, if you really look at his discography, after his first 2 albums, he was pretty much done. Maybe 3 albums. This is an anthology record. He was at the top of his game on his first 2 albums in Mad Dogs and Englishmen, and then after that, he just had substance abuse problems and really lost his way. Never really fully recovered. And when they put him in, they're going to have a great video of Woodstock where he's absolutely incredible. And, he owns With a Little Help from My Friends, and she came in through the bathroom window. He's not a great songwriter. He's a stylist. He like that. My mind of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame should be the best of the best of the best. The Mount Olympus of music, and it's just got re-watered down. So, I wouldn't have chose Joe Cocker. They're going to do a great video for him, but I wouldn't have put him in either. Next up, Cyndi Lauper. I did predict that Cyndi Lauper is going to get in. There's kind of a pretty big wave to get her in, although the fan vote didn't show it. I was pretty sure she was going to get in this year, and she did. And of course, her career is built around, the She's Unusual album, which is an amazing debut. It was a huge hit. It's a great album. And then the second album, True Colors, I actually saw this tour at Madison Square Garden. She was at the top of her popularity. And she was great. It was a radio concert, WNAW Christmas concert at the Garden. She headlined. Eddie Money was the opener with Ronnie Spector. It was good. But after these 2 albums, she has never really had a big commercial success after that. She's never had a top 10 since these 2 albums. And the other albums she has are a mixed bag. They didn't sell a lot. They're spotty. Here's her, best of 12 Deadly Sins album, her career is a mixed bag, musically. Now, she is a dynamic personality, no doubt about it. She's been in movies. She's on TV. She did wrestling. She was managed by Captain Lou Albano. She's an entertainer. But from her music, for me, would I put her in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? She didn't even write a lot of her most famous songs. But she's unique. She's got a great voice, and they put her in. Next up was Outkast. They put Outkast in. I predicted that just because of the Popular Music Hall of Fame, the way it's been, and inclusion of different styles. And Outkast was a huge pop rap band. Those two guys. Even my kid had that double album. You know, I used to hear it all the time. I don't think that music gets played all that often anymore. Correct me if I'm wrong. So I don't know if they have that kind of staying power that I would put in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, meaning the best artists that are timeless. Is Outkast timeless? I don't know. You'd have to tell me because I never listened to them then and I wouldn't listen to them now. Next up, Soundgarden. I can't really comment about Soundgarden. I don't have any of their albums. I know they're from Seattle. I know Chris Cornell's A Sad Story. And Black Hole Sun is an amazing track. And those albums were really big. So I guess they deserve to be in there for the Seattle scene. They're just not my cup of tea. So, and I did predict that they would get in. And I also predicted that the White Stripes would get in. And I have mixed feelings about them, and I'm a moderate fan. You know, these three albums are great albums. As Elephant and Get Behind Me, Satan. These are the three that I have. The problem that I always had with the White Stripes is that they're kind of, in a sense, like they have that certain sound, and it's very hard to develop through that. It's only, you know, Jack White and Meg on the drums, and even he needed a lot more. You know, he left the White Stripes and did other things because he wanted to play with a bigger rock and roll band, and he's, you know, Jack White's amazing. And I went to his studio in Nashville, Third Man Records, and the guy's created an industry, and he's a maverick and super talented. But the White Stripes themselves, you know, I could only take so much of them, and I guess I'm not alone to a certain extent. But definitely a revolutionary band in their time. You know, all these artists to me that they put in are really good, I guess. You know, Chubby Checker I wouldn't put in for sure. But in my mind, the Hall of Fame should be the best of the best of the best. And the problem is, it is so watered down, not just by who they have to put in, you know, because of different styles of music. But, you know, like, to me, like, Bad Company's a really good band. I really like them. But I equate it to, like, baseball. You know, it's like a guy who hit 280 or 270, you know, for a couple of seasons. Is that a guy you put in the Hall of Fame? You know, Bad Company was really good in its day. Are they better than Free? Nah. Free's never going to get in because of the United States. So who would I put in? You know, from this list, none of them. Who would I have put in? I wouldn't put 7 in because it waters it down. You know, they do it because of the show and the money that's involved and the extravaganza. It's like the Grammys. You got to have this show and get people to watch it, and we're going to put 7 in. But there's not a 7 anymore that really deserve to be in. It's very hard each year to come up with something, you know, without watering it down. I would actually, the 2 that I would have put in for sure, that I totally think deserves it, would have been Oasis. And Oasis is a monstrously huge band. Now, just because somebody's big doesn't necessarily mean that they should be in. You know, their quality may not be that good. But Oasis has way more than enough amazing songs, you know. This is a classic album, obviously. You know, What's the Story of Morning Glory, and Be Here Now, and Definitely, Maybe, and The Master Plan, and, you know, the latter day albums, are, you know, a bit not as strong, but they all have some really good songs. But the reality is, you know, they got a huge discography. They are as big as you can get worldwide. They even cracked the United States to a certain extent. And they're epic. And that's what the Hall of Fame should be sometimes. Epic, you know, legendary, monstrous bands that have really good music too. And Oasis certainly does. I'm shocked that they didn't get in. They're one that I would have put in. The other one I would have put in would have been Fish. And Fish to me is a mixed bag. You know, I don't think they're the greatest songwriters for sure. but they definitely have some great albums. They're amazing players, and they're incredible live. And that's the thing about them. I have a bunch of their albums, and their albums are really good. And live, they can do it all. I mean, I don't know if you remember, they played Quadrophenia, they played Exile on Main Street, they played Loaded, they played the Talking Heads album, and they play them better than the bands that originally did them live. They're an incredible band. And as far as success goes, I mean, they took the model of the Grateful Dead and they ran with it, and it worked. And that's harder to do than one would think. I mean, they've sold out Madison Square Garden the most, except for Billy Joel, I believe it's over 90 times. You know what it's like to sell Madison Square Garden out for 90 times? They've played the biggest stadiums for decades. Now, somebody is going to say that doesn't mean they should be on a Hall of Fame just because they're really, really big. But they're more than just really big. They are a cultural milestone like the Grateful Dead, you know, fish heads. And there's something to be said for that. And they sell a lot of records. That's epic rock and roll for a long, long period of time. You know, some of these artists I'm showing you, they had a couple of good years, you know, commercially. You know, Cyndi Lauper got 2 top 10 albums. That's it. And the later day albums, spotty, but she kept her profile. Outkast, you know, pop rap. But, you know, it gets difficult. Listen, the Velvet Underground weren't around for very long, and they didn't sell a lot of records, but they should be in because those 4 albums are incredible and they influenced a lot of people. I don't know if any of these artists are so influential. So just my take on it. It just gets watered down. What else is getting in? Oh, by the way, the fan vote, Fish, 330,000 votes. Next up was Bad Company, 280,000 votes. I thought Cyndi Lauper would have had a lot more, so she didn't come close to that. But as you can see, winning the fan vote doesn't get you in. So I'm not even sure what the point of it. Musical influence. So, you know, you got people like the Velvet Underground and, you know, others that are in there. But, you know, I don't think anybody's more influential than who they're putting in this year, Salt and Pepper. I'm cracking myself. Salt and Pepper is in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame for musical influence. I think they were like those 2 female rappers. They had that one album that was huge. They must have like 4 or 5 albums, I guess. I don't have their albums. I never listened to them. They're going in for musical influence in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I can't wait for them to put Iron Maiden in as musical influence in the Rap Hall of Fame. All right. Calm down, Alan. Calm down. They are putting in Warren Zevon, and that's a good one. You know, I'm a big Warren Zevon fan. And they're putting him in for musical influence because that's what they do when somebody is never going to get in as the performer. So we feel bad enough. Let's get him in musical influence. So listen, he was great. Great songwriter. Great albums. Some of them are great albums. Yeah, he's really great. I got no problem with Warren Zevon going in for musical influence. I hope they'll put him next to Salt and Pepper. It's a good match. Who else they putting in? Tom Bell. Nicky Hopkins should definitely be in there. Carol Kay, one of the greatest bass players who played on every song ever recorded in the studio. And Lenny Waronker, Ahmet Ertegun Award. That's for music business executives. No problem with that. It's just interesting. And of course, what do you see in the background? The number 1 band that should be in the Hall of Fame that's not and has never been even nominated. It kills me. Jethro Tull. Here's their box sets, not even of all of their albums. You talk about, you know, influence and success and uniqueness and nobody being like them, selling a lot of records for a very long period of time, selling out Madison Square Garden, God knows how many times, sold out Shea Stadium and biggest arenas, the LA Forum, worldwide. One of the most unique, incredible bands of all time. And Ian Anderson, a musical genius. Never nominated. Never nominated. Mana got nominated. Oh my God. Kill me. Just kill me. I don't know. what can I tell you? At least some rock and roll got in this year. I actually probably would have put the Black Crowes in also. That's why that's sticking back there. Black Crowes is a true rock and roll band. I think they're spotty as well, but based on other acts that they're putting in, and they reunited and put out that really good record this year, the Happiness album. I kind of thought they wouldn't gonna get in, but I would have put them in along with Oasis and Fish. No. What do I know? Nothing. Anyway, let me know what you think. I hope you find this entertaining. We got to take it lightly. The Rock and Roll Hall of Fame really could have been an amazing thing. Just change the name. Popular Music Hall of Fame. Then it all works out. But that's what it's become. And then we could watch the big extravaganza on TV where they lip sync. And can't wait to see Salt and Pepper doing their thing on there. Should be fun. Alrighty, thanks as always. Hit subscribe if you're new to my channel. I got playlists doing this for 5 years, and have some fun with this Rock and Roll Hall of Fame stuff. I'll see you next time on the Alan Rosenberg Show. Oh, hit subscribe if you're new. Why not? Okay, bye.